Photographer Michael Eastman has traveled around the world for snapshots of buildings and structures, but his work doesn't look like architectural photography. Now, Eastman uses light and long exposures to create images that sometimes look abstract. He calls his work urban luminosity.
I'm drawn to things that reflect light, and either reflect light or transmit light. And I'm not always too concerned about what it is. It becomes kind of abstract, so you don't really know that this wall is in an elevator or the shaft of light is from an atrium. To me, it's unimportant. These are not photographs about the architecture. These are photographs about the way light hits and transmits through surfaces. You know, I try to see myself as a kind of urban alchemist. I'm looking at sort of fairly common, usually ignored textures and surfaces in contemporary architecture in cities, big cities usually. I started these photographs in New York, which was a great place to start because there's such great architecture there. I traveled around the country, and then I found that I wanted to go to sites where there were really fantastic contemporary architecture. So the Far East is where I headed. Shanghai, Tokyo, and Osaka. Great examples of architecture and great examples for me to photograph luminosity. They're shot usually at night. The exposures are very long, anywhere from 2 to 10 minutes. I don't know exactly what I'm going to get because the lights are so dim and they're all usually photographed off of reflective surfaces that until I get actually the film, and I do still shoot film, back to my studio and scan them in, I don't know what they look like. So it's sort of like, I'm doing this digitally, but it's the same thrill as when I was photographing and you printed a piece in the darkroom for the first time and you looked at that tray and it suddenly emerged. When I first began, I was, accused of photographing things as a painter, and I thought it was sort of a criticism, but now as I do this more and more, I realize it is what I am. I'm a painter who's using the camera as my brushes and the world as my canvas. So I see things much the way a painter does. I'm very interested in texture and patina and surface and light, and the subject is not as important in some ways as the color and what that abstract surface looks like. I started in 1972. I got into it by borrowing a friend's camera. Unlike other art forms, photography was really accessible. And I started creating images right away and thought that they were fairly good. It took me about 10 years to realize they weren't, but by that time I was pretty hooked. Started off in black and white, abstractions, urban, usually architecture, switched to color in the 80s. Went to Cuba in the late 90s. 2000 I started working on the book on horses. So things lead from one another, but I do a lot of different things. And even though I've got all these chapters that are, throughout 40 years, there's a consistency throughout it. I mean, I am interested in surface and color and composition and sort of abstract expressionism. And so the works are all related, and I think it's the same photographer, although the subject matter is very diverse. I'm not one of those people that knows, and I have a great deal of admiration for those that know exactly where to be when they see something that would be the perfect photograph. And there are many great examples of photographers that do that. I'm not like that. I think things present themselves to me when I'm there, and some things don't present themselves and I don't get them. So it's sort of like what happens right at that moment where the light hits it, where the wear and tear of the rain has peeled away the poster. All these things culminate in a moment in time when the abstraction is there for me and that the light hits it and I go, boom, that's it. Because I think it's everywhere. I think what I do is, in a sense, hopefully help the people who see my work see the world. And the highest compliment I ever got was somebody said that they were walking down the street and saw a surface on an old building and thought of me. And I thought, my God, I mean, you can't do more than that. You can't do more than, as an artist, is change the way a person sees the world.